And we are back recapping some OTA action here for the Indianapolis Colts. It is Thursday, May 30th. I guess a little bit of apologies. This is certainly a little bit more of a time difference between the two pods than how we typically operate. But I wanted to make sure we got this second OTA viewing in, which just wrapped up about an hour or so ago. And then next week, we'll probably do something again later in the week after the mini camp. And we'll try to get back to an earlier week cadence once we get into the summer vacation. I'm Kevin Bowen. This is Kevin's Corner. We appreciate you tuning in. Eddie Garrison on the ones and twos. How are you, sir?
Doing well. I'm feeling a little bit more refreshed. I get more time to sleep now with the Pacers season unfortunately over. So doing well.
Our Reds stink at baseball. And
what's new? It's May.
Correct. Yes, and I was like, wait, are they going to win a series? No, of course not. Why would they win a series? That would make too much sense. So that's the layout for today. Again, recap OTA 1 from last week, recap OTA 2 from today. And, we are in a period where, I think when this week's complete, the Colts will have had 6 OTAs and we only watch 2 of them. So I don't want to, again, act like this is gospel. This is not training camp where we're literally watching every minute of every practice. These are the observations from last Wednesday and then again Thursday here, May 30th. Then we'll get into a few Twitter questions and we'll go from there.
All right, so today was practice number 2. We will not start there. We will start with the first practice that you were able to see as in the media, because practices have been going on. These are just the practices that you've been privy to.
Correct. Yep. And you go back to last week, and honestly, I thought it was one of the more healthy, I guess I should say healthier would be the proper grammar there. Healthier, 21 and 22 starter days of the spring. Typically in the spring, you just have guys that are absent. You have guys that, not a ton of guys, but guys that are dealing with a little bit of nick here or there, and you didn't really see that at all in this first session. So again, 21 to 22 starters. Braden Smith, the only one out. Obviously, the Anthony Richardson takeaway was the biggest one because that was the first time we had seen him since October. And I would say my grand thing with Richardson after observing him now twice here is there is no way you could take some random human and walk them on to the practice field and say, hey, of those 4 quarterbacks over there, 5, 15, 4, and whatever number Keaton Slovis is, I think he's 8. No, maybe that's the Kansas guy. Who knows? And say, hey, which one had the right shoulder surgery? Which one missed all of last season, or I should say the majority of last season? Like, there's nothing you see from Richardson, whether it be limited workload, whether it be limited velocity, getting scaled back reps, however you want to define any sort of rehab or injury situation, none of that is there for him. So, again, I think that is the biggest sign. I'm not watching him thinking, man, he still has to ramp it up. Man, we haven't really seen him, challenge balls, down the field vertically. He's done all of it. It's now just, all right, growth as a quarterback. And I think that is just massive because obviously I don't need to remind anyone of times where it has been more rehab focused and not necessarily, quarterback focused because obviously there's development that's needed as a QB. There were some plays out of the pocket that, even though in a, red jersey setting, you can still see some of that stuff there in the first OTA session that we watched. He was picked in a 7-on-7 rep. So, there was a great deep ball to Kylan Granson. And then again, I think it was Daniel Scott maybe got him on the first practice. So that was kind of Richardson related. Eddie, the biggest news item from that day was Michael Pittman Jr., who remains out. Shane Steichen said today that, if it was a regular season, he probably could go ahead and practice. But, I'll admit when Pittman went down last Wednesday, it was one of the more quieter moments I can recall on a Colts practice field. I don't fault Jalen Jones at all for the play that led to, Pittman going down. It was a scramble drill, ironically enough, and Pittman, goes towards the sidelines as you're kind of trained to do, and there's just more congestion over there. And, Richardson throws one down the field, and Jalen Jones tries to go up and make a play, and boom, he collides with Pittman, and Pittman goes down. And that dude just doesn't go down. The USC pretty boy does not fake injuries because he's not a USC pretty boy at all. He doesn't milk injury, none of that. So at first you're like, oh, Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen don't walk over and assess every injury during the course of a practice. They walked over and assessed this one. Zaire Franklin even walked over. But, once he gingerly walked off, I would say the ginger walk-off turned more into kind of a slow walk into the facility. It seemed like crisis was averted on that end. But it's still a bummer, assuming he has missed the last week. That's like, let's say he sits for the rest of the offseason program. He'll have been out there for a day and a half of OTAs? That's out of 9 practices the Colts have? Obviously that's not ideal for him and Anthony Richardson trying to build more and more rapport. So that was the one, man, it just got really quiet out here with a couple hundred people out here on the practice field. I would say the highlight itself from that practice was Jalen Carlisle picking off Joe Flacco. It was... Am I allowed to say this without thinking people will freak out?
I'm not sure what you're about to say, so enlighten me / the listeners.
No, that's not the opinion I was looking for. You purely just want to hear what I'm about to say.
I do.
Is that how this works?
Yeah, it's your podcast, so your thoughts are your thoughts.
The Carlisle's interception was reminiscent of Shaq Leonard that first day at training camp in 2018 when he picked off Andrew Luck.
Ooh.
In that I'm not used to second-level defenders looking like that. Having a wingspan and a vertical that's able to climb the ladder, if you will, and make a play. And it's funny, Shane Steichen even joked, Flacco came back to him. He was like, dude, I would have made the same throw. That was the right read and, all of that. And it's a reminder of, Chris Ballard's been bullish on this. Ballard, of course, is drafted extraordinarily well at linebacker. He wants length, and Carlisle has got it. There's a article I posted on Carlisle actually just before he made that pick. And I used a photo from the combine for him. And, that is a jacked-up athlete. And you see the wingspan. So, a guy making a position switch like that, it was certainly a nice play to see there. A good day for Jelani Woods. Again, I mentioned good day for Kylan Granson. That probably covered everything from the first practice. Anything there, Eddie, stand out to you at all on that ends from our first open OTA session?
No, that was last week, so that seems such a long time ago.
I know it does. It does. It seems like eons ago. And I apologize for not... I thought about, should we do a pod next week? But
the only real takeaway that I thought based off of what Rich Whitting, Stephen Holder, James Boyd, Joel Erickson, Nate Atkins, George Bremer was just the Jalen Carlisle play. Really, I thought it was more a lot of you guys just saying, "Hey, it's nice to see Anthony Richardson on the practice field. His shoulder looks good. His mechanics look solid, and it's nice to see him handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully, more than 2 plays this upcoming season." So, yeah, that was pretty much the only takeaways that I took last week. Okay,
let's shift gears to today. And again, we are recapping Thursday, May 30th here, the Colts' second OTA. It's funny. I'm sitting there, maybe through the first. Basically, how it works is this: they do a 7-on-7 period. That's a handful of plays for the starters. They go to an 11-on-11 period. Again, similar, handful of plays, usually throw in a special teams in between, then do the same thing over again. A 7-on-7 period, an 11-on-11 period, and that's it. There's just 2 11-on-11 periods. Anthony Richardson was 4 of 6. He completed 1 ball to a wideout. If you look at that, you could literally kind of view Richardson's day and say, well, it was quietish. Again, a couple running backs, a ball to Hall, a ball to Sermon, a little ball to Will Mallory. Nothing really earth-shattering. But he did have a pair of completions to A.D. Mitchell that I thought was a glimpse into the future. And when Mitchell hauled in the first deep ball, it was a 7-on-7 play over his shoulder with Darrell Baker Jr. in coverage. At that point, the Colts had attempted a decent amount of deep balls for normal practice. Honestly, it was kind of a reminder of, oh, wow, Richardson and Flacco are in town. This is not, what I'm used to at the quarterback position here in Indy. It had been a day where the DBs were chirping. Kenny Moore made a play on Josh Downs. I think it was Nick Cross, or maybe it was Blackman, one of the two, made a play on Alec Pierce down the field. So it had been, and obviously it's not like, you expect to be 60% or 70% on deep ball connections. But then all of a sudden, Richardson gets a chance after he was almost picked off on a 7-on-7 similar ball down the sideline, and he put it right in the breadbasket. And Mitchell made the play, and it happened to be on the sideline where the defense was, and A.D. Mitchell certainly let the defense know about said play afterwards. And then he came back in the 11-on-11 period, and again, without Michael Pittman Jr., today's session, you didn't have Jonathan Taylor out due to personal reasons. Sounds like he'll be back next week. No Michael Pittman Jr., no Mo Alley Cox, and again, Braden Smith still out. So, it was a little bit of a patched up group when you think about backup running back, missing your number one wide out, missing your arguably number one tight end, and then right tackle as well. You had Mitchell with a nice comeback route. I'd say, I don't know, it's not like we have a great view of practice, but 15, 18-yard gain, something like that. And I think that variety is really key. And just seeing, he hits the deep ball in the 7-on-7, but then he also, a couple periods later, is able to haul in that comeback route. And Shane Steichen, again, after practice, made it clear that, Mitchell has made a lot of plays out here on the practice field. So I think my grandest takeaway probably from today was I can see, I've now seen with my own eyes why the Colts do view A.D. Mitchell in the light that they view him. And I'm not sure if I shared this as much on our last podcast, but listening to Reggie Wayne talk about A.D. Mitchell, and again, that's an article up on 1075thefan.com. Reggie's not one that just hands out compliments. He's not one that's just like, oh yeah, here you go, welcome to my house, happy Halloween. Like, that's not Reggie Wayne. And for him to have been so public in the praise of Mitchell, I kind of walked away from it being like, man, are the Colts do they feel the need to defend the kid like no other because of how some of that draft chatter turned out? Because clearly they have said, this is where this is the type of player and the type of wideout that we feel like is just really kind of a missing ingredient in our room.
Remember, he said we got better the day they drafted him.
Sure, that was the raw footage, right, from the Colts. With the next pick. I know it's not called that, but with that series.
Behind the Colts.
Yes, thank you. And again, I think even Reggie's more filtered comments when he's in front of media cameras and it's not that raw emotion, he's not been afraid to, again, throw praise 80's way. So I thought nice day from Richardson and Mitchell. Again, it was a small sample size in terms of just 2 plays, but when you compare it to 2 out of whatever, 10 or 11, it's not that small when you think about it. So that was probably my grandest takeaway today. Again, the DBs did have some nice moments. But yeah, it was easily much more of your normal kind of spring practice. Dio Dengbo's attending a wedding, and again, Mo Alley Cox on the sidelines. I mean, you probably had more like 4 or 5 starters out today versus what you had last week. Jelani Woods had a second-level play that caught my eye. The thing about Woods is when he runs, Eddie, it's like he is his body frame is not common at tight end. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is he, 6'7", 250 something? Mm-hmm. That's what he's. I mean, that obviously is an outlier at tight end. And I feel this way at times when you watch Miles Turner run. It's like it stands out to you. Mm-hmm. It's not whatever, maybe the most fluid. It's not like
a gazelle.
Yeah, gazelle's the popular animal that you hear. Yeah, all of that. And so there's times where I'm watching Woods run and I'm like, I mean, he's moving, but I'm like, damn, is he like, it just clunky isn't the right word, but it just, again,
choppy.
Yeah. It's not, Kylan Granson runs differently. And again, Kylan Granson's body type is totally different. So I found it interesting because I obviously haven't watched Woods run in a while. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen him on a practice field, but I bring that up to say Woods' comments post-practice were like, oh, I'm more explosive than I was as a rookie. So I find that interesting because I think at times the physique of him athletically is so unique that you all of a sudden look down the stopwatch and you're like, wait, what? Oh, wow, he ran that? It doesn't look like that. And that's where your eyes can kind of deceive you a little bit. So obviously him just participating, period, is really important. So far, Eddie, I would say that in the 2 sessions we've been out there, it's been Jalen Jones ahead of Dallas Flowers, if you want to call that, a competition. Juju Brents being the other outside guy. And then I would say at safety, it's Nick Cross ahead of Rodney Thomas II. So we'll continue to monitor that. Again, who knows? Maybe tomorrow it could be the reverse of that. And obviously, as we sit here on May 30th, the Colts have operated the entire spring without a veteran move. Will we see that? I think a great question to ask right now is, here you go. Here's the 53-man roster. How many of these spots will go to a person not in the building right now?
Fair question. It's a good one.
There's probably naturally, Eddie, an injury that'll flare up that'll lead to a guy making it. But again, I don't sit here and think to myself, oh, they are 1,000% signing Quandre Diggs tomorrow, or insert your corner move here. I just think there's, again, a level of contentment. You could call it belief. You could call it stubbornness. However you want to view it.
Confidence.
Confidence, sure. That's where I'm kind of at secondary wise right now. So, again, those are kind of my main takeaways. A few more up in an article up on 1075thefan.com. I think you're reminded when Taylor is not out there, oh, wow, backup running backs, it's wide open. Sermon made a play. Sermon and Goodson had a couple nice runs. Granted, again, it's full pads. Not full pads. I'm always hesitant about, running plays in that setting. Evan Hall, again, had a catch from Richardson. So, those reps are wide the hell open. So how those divvy up will be interesting to watch.
I know you've only been out there twice. Any players that have caught your eye outside of Jelani Woods and the play from Jalen Carlisle last week?
Raekwon Davis is huge. I know it's a pretty obvious statement. Thank you, Kevin. Tell me something. I know
it's always hard to judge these practices.
Well, certainly trenches.
It's not football.
We haven't mentioned Leatu Latu, and we're how many minutes into it. It's just hard to kind of, truly get a feel for the trench guys in these settings. Anthony Gould to me is a guy that, I've tried to watch some of the punt stuff, and the ball security seems to be there. You try to watch some of the individual stuff when it comes to being a wideout. At times it's like, and Isaiah McKenzie probably stands out. The gadgety guys, sometimes you just can't trust them. They're just, and that probably what makes their flair for the dramatic. I still think back to Josh Cribbs muffing that punt in the AFC title game, which, remember the Colts got an early stop in that game before the Deflategate chaos ensued. Those guys at times, again, there's volatility with them. Gould, I'm like, oh, wow. The hands seem to be pretty good. Looks like a guy that can catch it. All of those things that you want to see. So he's probably someone, I mentioned Carlisle earlier. Cam McGrone is a local guy here from LC that when they came out in their base set today, it looked like he was the third linebacker. Who is that third linebacker? That's wide open. Is it Carlisle? Is it Carlisle every down? Or is Carlisle, again, a safety transitioning to linebacker? The physicality of a run defense when you are trying to play base against, I know Derrick Henry's out of the division, but, insert, a good running back
Joe
here.
Mixon.
Joe Mixon, sure. Who is that kind of third linebacker? More of a thumper, if you will. Daniel Scott had that pick of Richardson back in the first OTA. Obviously he's one the staff is super high on.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of seeing him on the field after tearing his ACL is probably a name that stood out to me as well.
Trying to think of any other questions that people typically ask.
Tight end reps have been as wide open as you would expect.
I figured.
And again, without Mo Alley Cox, you see that. But I noticed Granson day one. Ogletree. All of them have made a play. For what it's worth, Ogletree, he did meet the media today. First time he's met the media since the domestic. I think it was a domestic assault charge, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I have that phrasing right.
Domestic violence?
Domestic violence charge was dropped, and he wanted no part of addressing it at all. Made it very clear that was in the past and he's moving forward. But yeah, he's a guy that certainly is in the mix there. So, yeah, those are probably some of the ones that stood out. So, again, 1075thefan.com for more reactions there.
You ready for the Twix questions?
Let's get Twix. Nice. Yeah.
You like that?
Throw 'em. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Look at that.
Because you're still Twitter. Oh. I've transitioned to X.
I'm all Twitter.
Yeah, because I'm not an old man yelling at clouds like you are. First one comes from B-Dub. And how about this, Kevin? It is May 30th, and we're getting a fantasy football question.
Let's go.
Hey, Kevin, I hope you guys are able to get out to an OTA this week because I need to know how Jonathan Taylor looks. I watched a lot of his workout videos, and he looks like 2021 JT. I'm trying not to hype myself up to taking him number one overall in fantasy football. Does he look 100% like he says?
Well, it's very fitting that on a day like this, we ask the question. Taylor's not present.
Yeah, I know, right? Swift?
The thing about it is, I just go back to week 18. And I'm reminded of, gosh, how good did he look in that game? I mean, I've made the case before on this podcast, Eddie. Considering the moment, I thought it was the best game of Taylor's career.
He left the game hurt.
Right.
And then he comes back.
Yeah. Did he run for the touchdown after he came back?
I can't remember.
I'd have to go back and look at it. I mean, that cut he had on the touchdown run, I have a vivid memory of just seeing that play unfold. And again, that's, with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I would say the thing that I am most bullish on about this Colts team in 2024 is the dynamic nature to Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor together in the backfield. And everything you can do off of it. The read options, the pitch stuff, the zone reads, all of that. I'd be a bit disappointed if the Colts did not lead the league in explosive run plays this season. I mean, I think that dynamic element is there. Now, obviously, when you think about Richardson, there's a health question. When you think about Taylor, okay, 17 games is something he hasn't done in a couple of years. I don't think it's a pressing issue, but is Wisconsin wear and tear catching up? Is that there? Because we've seen a couple of injuries. Now, granted, the thumb, it's kind of a weird thing that he had back in December. So, but damn, dude, if those two are in the backfield, I mean, and again, that's what opens up one-on-one on the outside for Pierce and Mitchell. And, one thing about Pierce, he's taking special teams reps. And, how many guys on this football team, how many guys in the NFL lead the league in wide receiver snaps one year, and the next year they're taking special team reps? I think it just goes to show you how wide open, Michael Pittman's reps are behind him. Obviously, Pittman is number one, but if you're the third, if A.D. Mitchell beats him out and you're the third outside wideout, you got to go play special teams. So that's just interesting. But, week 18 was great from Taylor. No surgery. He's participating. I know he wasn't out there, last week. But do you view him as a winner or a loser draft-wise?
Oh, I viewed him as a huge winner.
Yeah. I know people are kind of, I'm kind of torn on that of, is it too much work?
I mean, you just paid him a...
Right, I know. I just think, with running backs, there can be that fine balance between, 16 versus 22.
Do you remember what his injury was in that Texans game?
And all that add up. It was ankle, right? Because that was the question, right? Of was it the same ankle? Was it an aggravation, anything like that? And it was deemed not to be that. So, yeah.
I was just trying to find... Yeah, because he was listed as doubtful to return, and then he comes back. Yeah, I can't remember.
It wasn't late third quarter. Does that sound right?
Yeah, because there was a stretch. I was just trying to find it through
I get it. New England on that Saturday night, Buffalo certainly... there have been other games in Taylor's career. Was it Jacksonville he ran for 200-some, all that. So.
Oh, yeah.
But damn, for the moment, and your offense couldn't do anything throwing it, what a night for him.
Austin's Twix question is up next. If you had to make a starting NBA 5 out of Colts players, who would they be?
Dude, are we talking B-ball?
Yeah. He's got multiple questions here, so I'm asking this one first, and then I'll get to the other question that he has.
Okay, so starting 5 basketball.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, Mo Cox is a given. I'm going Kenny Moore as a given. Kenny Moore is going to be my point guard. Mo Cox is my center. My power forward is a junkyard dog.
You realize Mo Cox is only 6'5", so you're going small there at center.
The guy played in the NCAA tournament. I'm not. What do you want me to throw out? Is there a 6'9" guy on the roster? I mean, I don't know what else I can do.
I was going to say, you could do Jelani Woods.
Well,
I don't know if his
Jelani Woods' basketball resume look like. It's
I
a
know.
slap in the face at Shaka Smart and Mo Cox.
Well, I was saying you could put Mo at the 4. You don't have to put him at 5.
No, the 4 I'm putting Pittman. I'm nervous he might get ejected by the end of the first quarter. But I'll put him on Bobby Portis and see what happens. So the 2 and the 3, I always think this guy is just a good-looking athlete. I have no idea. For some reason, strikes me as not having a jump shot, but I think he's too athletic not to be on the floor. Let's go EJ Speed at the 3.
I think there's a player that you may not know about that had a pretty solid high school basketball career as a...
Well, they all had they all tell you that they all had great high school careers.
Well, his brother played at North Carolina. Let me introduce you to that one.
Mr. Downs.
Both. Or no, why am I thinking of May? For some reason, I'm thinking of Alec
Drake
Pierce.
May?
Alec Pierce.
Pierce is a good one. Yeah, his brother played at Princeton, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Or plays at Princeton, I should say. Yeah, that is a good one. Okay, Pierce will be the 6th man. My 2 guard will be Julian Blackman.
Isn't it?
Kenny Moore, Julian Blackman, EJ Speed, Michael Pittman Jr., Mo Cox.
Now,
are you good with that?
I think there may be one other player to throw in here because I think I saw a highlight tape of this after they drafted him. I believe Adonai Mitchell also played basketball in high school.
I would hope 90% of the roster did. If
That's
not,
true.
They went to just some unbelievable great high schools.
That's right. Yeah, I could see that. I could see Josh Downs being a sneaky good hooper.
Yeah, I mean his brother obviously.
Oh, hold the phone here. Hold the phone, Kevin.
Are we missing someone obvious?
Anthony Richardson. He plays.
Yeah, but again, no, he can be the 7th man.
He's in my starting 5.
No, you got to put him in some bubble wrap.
Well, if you're just playing NBA,
I like EJ Speed guarding on the perimeter. I like Michael Pittman Jr. just banging down low as a power forward, scrapping, getting loose balls, all that.
Okay.
I feel good. I really feel good about Kenny and Julian in the backcourt.
okay.
I mean, there's nothing that will get an NFL locker room more fired up than this debate.
I'm going with Mo Cox. We're going positionless here, Kevin. So I'm going to give you 5. Anthony Richardson, Zaire Franklin. He's my wing defender. That's all I'm asking him to do is defend.
Defender?
Asking him to defend and rebound. And then I will go with Alec Pierce. And then I will throw in Pittman.
Gosh, Pittman's going to use up those fouls quick with his physical. The thing. One thing to note on Pittman, in all seriousness, we obviously are seeing the Jalen Waddle contracts. We're seeing the Nico Collins contracts. It is a reminder of by the time the next year starts, Eddie, and I mean, who's still left? Don't we have Jefferson extensions,
DeMar Chase,
Higgins potentially?
Pittman's contract is an absolute steal.
Yeah, it's just going to be 15th overall wideouts? I don't know, 17th overall wideouts. And, you don't usually see a guy sign an extension before he even plays a snap, on that level. There are other issues on this football team that you could point to of money invested at particular spots. Like if you want to cry or you want to weep, look at how much money Quentin Nelson makes at left guard compared to the 5th best left guard in the league. And it's alarming, the difference in money there and potentially how you could allocate that money elsewhere. But in terms of Pittman's contract, that was very, very smart by the Colts in getting that done when they did.
The other question from Austin is, what is the best time zone to watch football in? I'm in the Midwest, so I get 12, 3:30, and 7:15.
Ooh, is that
which feels
central action?
Perfect to me, but also I'm very biased. Yes.
Yeah, I am. So when I was out in Vegas a few weeks ago, dude, that early morning
it's brutal.
sport viewing, oh my gosh.
We went to Seattle 2 months ago, and we wake up on Sunday and it's like 9 o'clock. It's like, oh snap!
Is it too good though?
Baseball starts in an hour.
Is it like fool's gold? Because like if you want to do outdoor activities, aren't you missing out?
Yeah.
I think it might be too good. But Central, to answer the question, I think Central or Mountain would be very, very intriguing.
Mountain time is the correct answer here. I've experienced college football late night.
Oh,
so like when Colorado and Colorado State were having that crazy game during the regular season.
Yeah.
I was in Colorado for that, and it was like midnight that time when it got over, and I was barely tired.
Yeah, I would say Central or Mountain. I mean, 12, what is it? What's he saying? 12, 3:15 or
12, 3:30, 7:15, yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, to your point, obviously you and I are, you especially, but, even me staying up for those Pacer games, it's just like, damn, those games, Eastern time, they just start late.
Yeah, someone who works for the Pacers radio team, I've become a night owl.
Yeah, you are
more than ever.
You are the poster child.
2 left, D-Nice. With the addition of Laiatu Latu and the Colts attempt to add the Bear front to the arsenal next season.
Boy, sounds like a Rick Venturi type question, right?
Yeah.
Be a big old Bear front guy. I would say the Bears are going to be the Hard Knocks team this year.
Ooh, you think so?
It was just announced.
Oh.
I'd say one of my just kind of bigger questions is how does Gus Bradley evolve in year 3? I mean, is there more there? Like, I know this for a fact, Eddie Garrison. If you gave Shane Steichen a shot of liquor, maybe 3 shots of liquor, I don't know, at the making a visit to the Masters, going to the Kentucky Derby, pour a little mint and juleps, spike that a little bit, and you told him what is the most difficult defense to prepare for in the NFL, he ain't saying what's on the other side of his building. It's...
Well, he does have to prepare for that one, so...
Well, you know what I'm getting at. That style of defense is not the one that he would lose sleep over. It's, the Belichick schemes. It's Brian Flores. It's that aspect to it. So that is a question, though, that I just think overall I have on my mind is what do we see differently? Did Charlie Partridge bring different fronts from Pittsburgh that he wants to employ? And
different technique?
Is Gus Bradley signing off on that? Yeah, I mean, obviously we've heard a lot about just upfield. I mean, that's been the common theme under Nate Ollie and Gus Bradley in the first couple of years. Coverage-wise, again, is there involvement? Do you trust guys more? Obviously, you played a youthful secondary. For a defense that's running it back with virtually every starter, if not everyone, that should open the door to tweaks to, if you want to put it in school terms, hey, this is our 101 version. Boom. Now it's our 303 version, 301 version, something along those lines. I think all of that is necessary. So, D-Nice, to answer the question, I'm not holding my breath on that, but I think those are things that do need to take place.
Final Twitter question comes from Cato, and it's not Cato June.
Kelvin Hayden, by the way, was at Colts practice today.
Really? Did you catch up with him?
I did not. No, I had his 3 sons with him. Yeah. Talk about a man that's ruined the Bears and their career before.
Yeah. If Jonathan Taylor maintains success like he's had, and the Colts finally achieve playoff success, is he a Hall of Famer in your eyes? If not, what more does he need to do?
Wow. So give that to me again. If he does what he's done so far?
Yes. And the Colts have playoff success, is he a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, he probably is. Now, I think the key with Hall of Fame stuff moving forward is like, how are we going to evaluate quarterbacks? Mm-hmm. How are we going to evaluate running backs? I think you have to evaluate those positions, those players in terms of the eras they are in. Because the bell cow running back is dying. So can you evaluate them differently?
It is pretty much dead, yeah.
I remember I'm thinking back to Taylor's contract situation last offseason. At that point, Eddie, through 3 years of his NFL career, he had the best yards per carry of any running back in league history.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, right there is a Hall of Fame style career. So, obviously he would need to string together more 1,000-yard seasons. He would need to string together. I mean, if you're saying he's repeating the success he's had already, he's already led the league in rushing once. He would obviously do that another time. There would be playoff success on that resume as well. Yeah, it is kind of funny to look at Derrick Henry's a Hall of Famer, no doubt, right?
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Well, certainly if you're going to factor it in on grading in an era. When you compare Henry's numbers to everybody else, but who else from this era would you put? Current running back in the NFL who is on a Hall of Fame trajectory?
McCaffrey
is Nick Chubb.
See, I don't know with the knee injury that he just endured.
McCaffrey and Henry to me would be, I would say, pretty obvious, but how that position continues to evolve moving forward, and again, longevity is important. So maintaining that will be critical. But yeah, I think honestly, I don't think Taylor needs to go too above and beyond what he's done so far, Cato. It's, if you just take this first 5 years and transplant that to year 6 through 10, maybe this past year, instead of getting hurt, if that becomes a 1,300-yard season and the Colts are able to win, some playoff games, that would be important as well. But, obviously Nelson is a stone cold lock. But I would think Taylor is on a path. The difficulty in running backs is that old injury bug will take you off that path pretty darn quickly. Just father time in general, I should say.
Is the number 10,000 yards career-wise?
Is that the magic one? Are you looking up all-time rushing yards in the NFL?
If he got to 10,000, he would be 32nd, 10,000 on the nose.
Isn't everybody to Edgerrin is in the Hall of Fame on the list? I feel like that was a thing when Edgerrin finally got in.
Edgerrin's 13th, so I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Gore is Frank Gore is the only one between 1 through 16.
Zeke is not a Hall of Famer, right?
That's where I was going with. Zeke.
Oh.
Yeah, Henry for sure.
Yeah, Henry's got to be. He's at 9,500 yards. Am I seeing this right?
Yep.
If he's got, that dude is a machine. If he rushes for 2,000 more yards in his career, which, I don't think that's that crazy. Yeah, he's top 20. In this era, yeah, I think you're in. Who would you rather have this year as a running back quarterback duo? Henry and Lamar, Richardson and Taylor.
Oh boy, I hear I'll add a third, Hurts and Saquon.
I forgot about Saquon. Now he would really have to obviously have big numbers, but yeah, I kind of forgot about him. Anything else on your end, Eddie Garrison?
Mm-mm.
Everybody, thank you for listening to this edition of Kevin's Corner. We'll come back again probably next Thursday again. Recap the mandatory minicamp. Have some recaps daily up on the website, 1075thefan.com. Get into off-season pods. If you guys got any ideas, any topics you want us to hit on a little bit more in long form, send it our way. Everybody have a great week, great weekend. Kevin Bowens signing off.